even see things like the transaction number, the transaction type. So these things are really important. If you had a specific transaction that's taken place, you could tell me the transaction number and I can actually enter it into Helix.
What cameras have you got on the stand today?
Yeah, so we've got a few domes here today. The main difference between the two is the form factor. So we've got a dome that you'd typically use for your entrances, exits, to make sure that they're all covered. And then the CM42, so that's our smaller mini dome, and that's perfect for indoor use, great for things like Helix as well.
I've heard that Helix terminology quite a bit in some of the Verkada videos. What is Helix?
Yeah, so Helix is a very clever way of integrating your camera footage with a POS system, for example. Essentially, you've got a transaction that happens throughout the day.
Yeah.
Rather than remembering what time that transaction happened or what that transaction was, and then going back to your CCTV to find the associated footage, just match the two together, and you can start to do very clever things like actually searching by a transaction number or an item type to bring up the associated footage.
Is it right? Am I correct in thinking the POS system actually integrates with the Verkada system?
Correct.
So we can track it after the event?
Correct, yes.
Can you show me something?
Yeah, let me show you what that looks like. Helix will live in our alerts page here.
So there's Helix on the command system itself?
Correct. We ingest the data from the EPOS system into Helix.
Okay.
So you can see here we've got some examples of some Helix that we've pre-built beforehand. So a good one to come to, for example, is the cashier checkout scenario.
Yeah, standard retail environment, someone's purchasing something and a transaction takes place. Can you just show what actually does it pick up?
Correct. So all these fields that we can see here on the right hand side, the information that is being picked up by the POS system itself. So you can see whether a discount is applied, who that discount name falls under. You can even see things like the transaction number, the transaction type. So these things are really important. If you had a specific transaction that's taken place, you could tell me the transaction number and I can actually enter it into Helix to pull up the footage. It becomes really important for things like transaction type as well. So here we can see that this was a sale that's taken place. But if we think about things like refunds, for example, when a refund takes place, it needs to be with typically two people, right? So one person behind the desk and one person on the other side.
Yeah.
So if we see that the people count is less than two, we know that that's sort of something we need to flag.
Yeah. So that's going to help retailers to see how much stock is going through the tills, if the right amount of stock is going through the tills, the right amount of discount is being applied. Someone comes into store with a fraudulent credit card or a stolen credit card and they do a transaction, and then 2 months down the line the bank or merchant facility sends you, right, you had a fraudulent transaction on this date. Now typically I know from back in the retail they have to trail through the CCTV footage, and look at every transaction that took place. If I had the date, the time, or even the amount, can I input that data in the search from that?
Absolutely. So if you've got any of these pieces of information that was picked up by the point of sale system, what we can actually do is search at the top. So here we have our search bar, and I can see that I've got all these different ways that I can search for a particular transaction.
Right, okay. So I can input any one of these fields in. So if we went to, let's say, the payment amount, so if we went to the price and we inputted an amount, it would bring it up. And am I right in thinking that CCTV footage of that clip will be there as well?
Correct. So you can even do things like less than or more than $10, something like that. So if we actually type that in, so we can say this needs to, that's 0.1. But essentially if we went for something like the price needs to be equal to 10, in this case dollars, so we can actually see it's just pulled up the one, and we can see here that that price was in fact $10. So if we had a specific amount or typically like a transaction number, that would pull up the associated footage. You can actually see here that we are using in fact a CM42 for that as well.
So that's going to help retailers to see how much stock is going through the tills, if the right amount of stock is going through the tills, the right amount of discount is being applied. Because I know if someone had a friend working at the store, they might apply more discount than what this can pick up all that. Can I set alerts that, let's say, if a discount of more than 50% has been processed, can I get a notification?
Today we can't do that, but it is a very popular request that we hear from customers. So something that hopefully will be in the works soon, but I can definitely see the value behind that.
Yeah, just so you get alerted and then you can be proactive or reactive.
Exactly. I guess Helix, what we've seen is it's really used for two things. So one of our really big customers actually invested in Helix for packing and distribution. So if they had a customer who had said,
"Hey, I've only received the left shoe of my shoebox. You didn't send it to me.
We've got the associated footage that we can find very quickly to say, actually, we did pack both shoes in the box and we've sent them off. So either it's an issue with the courier, or like you say, the discounting issue where some people are trying to put in a little bit high, too much of a high discount, or they're processing a refund that isn't in fact a refund that we can actually flag straight away.
On a retail thing, I see people don't want to use security cameras just for security. Now, I'm guessing you could tell me more, that it can be used for a whole host of things. Can we pick up a people counting, and can we see how many busiest times of the day? Is that the camera, or is that your analytics that you've got with Helix? Which is it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So obviously CCTV is needed everywhere, right? But typically we need it in the entrances, the exits, to see who's coming in and out of our stores. So what we've done is something really clever, which is attaching an analytics to those cameras, which means we can actually start to count how many people are entering, exiting, and see our peak and busiest times of the day. So we've just recently introduced something called occupancy trends or camera analytics. And this is a really clever piece of software where, like I said, we've already got the footage of everyone coming in. We can do people detection. So why not just put the two together and actually show you a chart of, what your total count was today, what your peak time was, and how many people we estimate to be in the store right now. So if I click on this, for example, we can actually see a bar graph just showing us very clearly green being the amount of people in versus red being the amount of people out. So we can quickly see, 11 a.m. we might need to have more staff members in the store to be able to cater for 107 people coming in.
Can I do that from different entrances? Let's say my store has got 3 different entrances. Can it all figure that out and calculate that?
Absolutely. So we create a very simple to use workflow that allows you to select specific cameras as your entrances or in and out cameras. So granted that you've got a camera there, you can absolutely go ahead and put some occupancy.
And also, would I be able to do, let's say, 3 entrances but only 1 exit? Can it pick that up? Yeah, it just basically just telling the system this camera's an entrance and this camera's an exit, and the flow that the people are walking in.
So essentially you're just marking every door and then specifying which direction is in and which direction is out. So if it sees people crossing in a certain way, they'll be counted as in or out.